This is the M1 rifle designed by John Cantius Garand and adopted by the United States military in 1936. It is a gas-operated semi-automatic, feeding from an 8-shot ejectable clip and firing the model 1906 30 caliber rifle cartridge. This rifle was very generously donated to me by Tucson Tom, a reader of my website. Thank you, Tom. This is the weapon that won the Second World War. Approximately 6 million were made by the United States government between 1936 and 1957. Exact figures are still not known. It was also copied in a few nations, particularly Italy. It continues to be used in competition across the United States and can also be used for hunting. There are many idiosyncrasies to the design, and it needs ammunition made to a particular power level and pressure curve, but its reliability has been proven on battlefields across the world. The Garand is one of the few military rifles to claim accuracy, power, and reliability in the same package. During World War II, American soldiers were trained to hit man-sized targets with this rifle at 500 yards, more than a quarter mile. General George S. Patton famously declared the M1 to be the single greatest battle implement ever devised by man. This video is intended to cover the basic mechanical operation from the user's point of view. I won't go into marksmanship, trigger control, or a correct prone position. There are much better sources for that sort of thing, particularly the Appleseed Project weekend rifle clinics. These rifles can be purchased from the Civilian Marksmanship Program for about $600 for the common rack grade, after meeting some very simple requirements, such as completing an official match. For this video, I'm using A-Zoom snap caps. These are solid aluminum, inert dummy cartridges. They're expensive, but they work very well. All of these operations are presumed to be for a right-handed user. As usual, let's begin with identifying the major features and controls. The trigger, the manual safety, back is on safe and forward is off safe, the operating rod handle, usually called op rod, the bolt, the loading and ejection port, the magazine follower, and the clip latch. Now let's see how to clear and make safe the M1 rifle. While keeping the muzzle in a safe direction and fingers away from the trigger, make sure the manual safety is engaged by pushing straight back.
The manual safety cannot be engaged unless the hammer is cocked. If the hammer is not cocked, it can be seen through the opening in the right side of the receiver, as shown in these two photos. On the left, the hammer is cocked and is not visible. On the right, the hammer is down against the rear of the bolt. If the hammer is not cocked, it is unlikely there will be a live round in the chamber. If the safety cannot be engaged because the hammer is not cocked, the safety can be engaged after pulling the op rod back, as this will cock the internal hammer.
Then, brace the butt against your thigh. Now, pull back on the op rod handle with your right thumb. If the weapon is already empty, the op rod will lock back. If someone is playing a joke on you and has inserted an empty cartridge, it will eject with the famous ping. If there are cartridges present, one will likely be in the chamber and the remainder in the clip. Pulling back the op rod will extract and eject the first cartridge, but releasing the op rod at this point will chamber the next. You don't want that. Place your left hand over the top of the receiver and press on the clip latch here. Keep your hand over the top of the ejection port to catch the clip as it ejects. At this point, the op rod will lock back and you can release pressure there. For examination and handling, leave the bolt locked open. For range safety, insert an open bolt indicator. To close the bolt for storage, after ensuring that all ammunition has been removed from the weapon, hook the edge of your hand against the op rod handle to prevent it from flying forward. Then, press down on the magazine follower to release the internal op rod catch. The op rod will attempt to jump forward at this point. The op rod can then be eased forward. Note how the bolt rotates to lock into its recesses in the receiver as it closes. Make sure you have a firm grip on the op rod handle. The legendary M1 thumb results in not controlling the op rod with your fingers in the loading port. Loading the M1 can be tricky and can cause injury if not done correctly, but with practice it can be smooth, fast, and safe. The standard clip holds 8 rounds. Let's examine how to load the clip itself. Cartridges are inserted. Note how I use one finger to hold tension on the cartridges as I insert them. A right-handed shooter will want the bottom cartridge on the left and the top cartridge on the right. We'll see why in a moment. The first 7 cartridges are easily inserted loose. The last cartridge is rolled into the top of the clip as though you were loading a double-column magazine, for example, for an AR-15. Mechanically, it makes no difference which way the clip is loaded, with the top cartridge on the right or the left. But a right-handed shooter will want the top cartridge on the right for a better area to press down with the thumb when inserting the clip. Once the clip is loaded, the op rod is drawn back and locked open. The clip is then inserted into the rear of the loading area. It can be inserted either way, as both sides are identical. Before pressing down, hook the edge of your right hand against the op rod handle. This will prevent the op rod slamming forward and possibly damaging your fingers. Press the loaded clip down until it catches. When it catches, you will feel the op rod jump forward. At this point, flip your hand up and away, and the op rod should slam forward and chamber the first cartridge. If there's a bit more friction, you may have to thump on the back of the op rod handle to get it to chamber the first round. If the safety is off, the weapon is now ready to fire. To fire, aim, release the manual safety by pushing forward, and press the trigger in the usual way. The M1 rifle uses normal semi-automatic operation, meaning it fires one shot each time the trigger is pressed, automatically extracting and ejecting the spent cartridge and chambering the next from the magazine. This continues until all ammunition is spent, at which point the empty clip will eject. The op rod will then lock back and the weapon will be ready to receive another loaded clip. At this point I'm inserting video from some matches I've attended showing the reloading process. For competition, special 2-shot clips are used. These are loaded in the same way. They are then inserted with the cartridges on top. To comply with most states' hunting regulations, 5-shot clips are also available. Again, these are loaded in the same way. And inserted with the cartridges on top. When loading cartridges in the clip, make sure the cartridges are all the way back against the internal rib, which catches the extractor groove. I don't advise pushing the bullet points down on something hard, as this may damage the bullet points or even set the bullet back into the case. Rather, ensure that all the cartridges are firmly seated before fully loading the clip. Also for competition, there is the single loading enhancement device, or sled. These can be purchased, or you can make your own out of a standard clip. The sled does not eject. It is inserted normally, and then catches inside the receiver. In the slow fire stages of rifle matches, a single cartridge is rolled into the top of the sled, just like the last cartridge in a full clip. At this point, for some rifles, you can simply pull back on the op rod and the internal op rod catch will release. Some rifles may require you to push down on the cartridge to release the internal op rod catch. After firing, the case is extracted and ejected, and the op rod locks back, ready for the next cartridge. The sled stays in place. To remove it, use a tool to flex the forward flange to release the rear flange from its track inside the receiver. This leg can then be pulled out. This should conclude the basic operation of the M1 Garand rifle.